Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Gradeup's MBA Prep channel. So, welcome to this talk show. And today we have Paliwal with us. She is an alumnus of FMS. She graduated, she did her MBA in 2013, way back, and currently she is the director of growth and acquisition at OYO. So, welcome Priya to the show.
Hey everyone. Thank you, Pranav, for the introduction. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, so hi Priya. So first of all, you yourself introduce yourself that where have you worked post FMS? Like what has been your journey after MBA? Which all organizations you have worked for? How did you
Yeah,
reach this designation, etc.?
yeah. My first organization post FMS was Mahindra and Mahindra. So I joined their general management GMC program straight out of campus. I was there for about 2 years. I was in Bangalore. I was part of the retail sector, and that was actually the time when like internet companies were all these consumer tech companies were like really gaining pace, and like there was this whole trend of people trying to like get into the e-commerce side of things and trying to like like be an early entrant as an employee to kind of get a better understanding of how e-commerce operates. So that's when I decided that that's when I decided to switch careers and I moved to e-commerce. So I was with ShopFuse for about 3 years. I worked there as a category head, gained great perspective into how e-commerce operate. It's actually a company which catered to tier 2, tier 3 audience, much like unlike Flipkart and Amazon, which was more brand focused at that point in time and based out of Gurgaon. So I was there for about 3 years. And then I joined OYO as in their business development team, been almost 2.5 years since I've been with them. And I recently made a switch from business development to growth. Growth, digital marketing for Southeast Asia in OYO. So yeah, I mean, that's a quick intro about me and the organizations that I've worked with.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey. And generally, we see that people after MBA they refrain from joining startups. They would prefer to be associated with a bigger brand, right? Of
Yeah.
course, OYO has now become a big brand, but by the time you joined, it was maybe at a nascent stage. It was just at the growing stage. So, could you tell something that what are the advantages, pros, and cons? I would say of joining a startup.
Yeah. So, see, having worked with two startups, right, I would say, I would start with the pros, right? So, there is immense learning opportunity. Uh, at a very early age, you're not basically stereotyped in roles. You can, like you're actually handling a lot more at your age than what you would do, let's say, in a more conventional organization, right? So that's number one. If you're somebody who wants to, who has that hunger of like climbing up the corporate ladder at a very accelerated pace, then startups is that thing. I mean, startup can actually work out wonderfully for you. I I would also say that at the same time, it offers an immense opportunity for wealth creation as well. So if you happen to join a startup at a very early stage, I mean, they more often than not give you a lot of ESOPs, and obviously if the organization goes public or is even acquired, then that actually for people who join early on and have ESOPs, that actually helps you with a lot of like wealth creation. Uh, another advantage of joining startups is that the role switching roles within a startups is very fluid. So let's say you join as a business development, like as a business development person, like I did, and then I decided that maybe this is not something that I want to do going forward. I would perhaps be a better fit for, let's say, growth marketing or performance marketing. So moving, if you've done well, like like taking that plunge or taking that switch within a startup is much easier as compared to a conventional organization. I would say that with respect to cons, I mean, if you're somebody who thrives in a more structured role, like somebody who would perhaps be a better fit for a as a consultant for a consulting organization, maybe an early stage startup is not for you because the roles are very, very unstructured. You have to learn to adapt and start working in a more unstructured environment. I'd say that. Especially like in the current scenario, I would say that there is job uncertainty also at some point in time. Like it could be because of both macro and micro factors, right? Because like when an organization or when a startup, typically when they raise funding, they try their hands at multiple strategies and multiple business units. There might be some bets which might work for them, there would be others which wouldn't, right? So there is always uncertainty, right? However, I mean, if you've been an ace performer, and at the same time if you're in a role which is of very, very critical importance to the organization, then of course there is nothing to worry about. But yeah, I mean, I would, like, if I have to probably like sum up some of the pros and cons, these would be it of working in a startup.
Yeah, so if you happen to work with different, as you said, that you can easily switch functions, which is not that easily available in conventional setup. So obviously you have a better learning curve as well. You get
Yeah.
to learn a lot of things, and here is something that you do not rely on. I mean, in a conventional setup, you rely on multiple stakeholders. Here, I mean, you yourself will have to go through multiple roles that you perform on your own. So obviously learning curve is another thing which is crucial in startups.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you said that you were fascinated by this e-commerce hustle, you said that it was a nascent stage, and so how do can you tell something about the roles that are in demand these days?
So actually, contrary in contrast to when I passed out of B school, right? So that point in time, digital marketing was just picking up, and I mean, consumer tech as a space was gaining momentum back in 2013, right? So some of the roles, like that, I would say are of very, very critical importance, and actually are industry agnostic at the moment. Would probably be data science, data engineering. You could probably become like a data or a business analyst to begin with. Uh, Other roles, maybe product management is one such role, which was, I mean, there were not a lot of roles in the market when I was passing out, but these days, like a lot of consumer tech and even conventional organizations are looking for product managers, product across, tech as well as marketing roles. So I think product management as a space has really gained momentum besides data. And of course, then there is performance marketing, which would include both user retention, user acquisition, so the whole digital marketing side of it. So even now, like, like 5-6 years of digital marketing having gained momentum, I think there is still a lot of gap in the market with respect to people, with respect to demand and supply of resources who have a tangible knowledge of how digital marketing works. So I think, yeah, these are some of the sources, or let's say some of the roles which are very, very upcoming and are going to be here for like a good amount of period even going forward. The beauty about some of these roles is that since they are industry agnostic, like, I mean, you can actually move across organizations, like, like if I mean, these roles actually do not restrict you to a particular geography. I mean, let's say if you're very good at your product management work, or very good as a data scientist or a behavioral scientist, then I think the entire world is kind of like looking out for people who are smart and who have like knowledge in these fields. So I would say that moving across borders also becomes much easier if you take up these roles, if that's something that interests you. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so the roles that, as you said, that one could pursue and could move across industries, switching becomes easy in these roles. So, if we talk about the B schools, right? So, like, do B schools focus a lot on these subjects, or if we talk about the study at the B schools, right? That is still much conventional. If you say
Yeah.
that, so it is the students who themselves have to prepare for such stuff. So, what would be your recommendation to the students so that they prepare themselves for these roles as well? Before joining the B school, let's say they are preparing for B school entrance examination. So what are some of these courses they could pursue, and while at B school they could take up some courses online so that they get themselves prepared for such roles.
Yeah, so see, I mean, these are courses that you would only take up once you've joined a B school, right? And I think you would perhaps start thinking of it right from the first semester, because towards the end of your first year is when you have the summer, I mean, the summer placement starts, and like companies, I mean, you need to like freshen up your resume, and you shortlisted based on what you've done in the past, right? So if you're somebody who's interested in, let's say, digital marketing, right, or performance marketing for that matter, I think there are a lot of courses, and free ones too, which are available on Google Academy, right? In fact, even when I was making that switch from business development to a digital marketing, I took up a variety of courses on Google Academy. I think Google Analytics and AdWords is something both basic as well as advanced. That's something that you should definitely do if you're gunning for, let's say, a digital marketing role, because that will actually give you an immense knowledge of what happens, and I mean, like, what happens and what does it, I mean, and how do you go about let's say, working as somebody who's into performance marketing. So it actually gives you a lot of insight. uh, if I would say, if you're uh, somebody who's, let's say, interested in data or business analysis, like, there are a lot of data and business analytics roles that are available in the market these days. So you should definitely do, let's say, a course on R, Python, and probably SQL. Uh, as far as product management is concerned, I think there is slew of courses which are available on a lot of educational portals, online portals these days. So there are specific courses which kind of like train you into how product as a department works, or how product functions. Right. There are also a lot of materials which are available online, like free of cost, which you can actually just like, like, which would actually probably lay down the steps that you need to take in order to, like, let's say, get into product management. A lot of preparation material as well on the questions that could perhaps be asked to a product manager. So yeah, I mean, I would say that um, I mean, if you identify that you want to get into one of these roles, then I think there are endless materials which are available in the market, which you can grab hold of, both free of cost as well as available at a small amount. Yeah.
Okay. So Vivek has a question that should we start taking up such courses from now itself, or they should do it once they enter a B school?
I would say you should start doing it once you enter the B school, right? So you already have like a lot of burden on you guys already to get into to clear good B schools. So I think you've I mean, just give yourself a breather. Once you've got into a B school is, I think, when you should start prepping for it. However, if you're somebody who's let's say just passing out of an engineering college and probably aiming to get into a B school like right after that, then maybe I mean, so I can actually talk about OYO, right? So OYO has a lot of we hire a lot of people directly from IITs and NITs who work with us as data scientists and business analysts, data analysts, right? And for us to hire them, some of the prerequisites are that they should be well versed in R, Python, and SQL, because that's something that actually helps them hit the ground running when they join the organization. So if you are somebody who's okay with taking a break, or who's also looking out for parallel opportunities apart from let's say getting into a B school, then definitely that's something that you can take up even now.
Okay, but once the students get into the B school, the life there is hectic. So, I mean, I would differ from you. I would say that they should start looking for such opportunities from now itself, because once you get into the B school, I mean, yes, if you can manage, that's well.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you enter, the first thing is about summer placements and all those. So, especially for freshers, they should start right now itself.
Perhaps, I mean, I think to each his own. If that is what works for them, then yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it does. He's right. I mean, Pranav is right. It does get hectic after you join a B school. Yeah.
so, Acha, so you had a completely different trajectory. I mean, not, I would say not completely different. There are few people like you who take up these trajectories, right? Instead of building a career in a conventional company, you switched roles. You found out some good opportunities. You found that these are some hot sectors at nascent stage. These are going to grow, right? So, how do you evaluate companies?
Yeah. So I would say that, like, like when we join a B school, right? Our single-minded focus at that point in time is to get through our dream college, right? We do not, and after that, we kind of like place a lot of importance on getting through organizations based on the days on which they're coming, right? So perhaps everybody would come for, let's say, a day zero company, and then probably like at max target to get into organization by day one, day two at max, right? So, and a lot of our judgments on how good a company is actually biased by our peers' opinion of it, right? So I'll actually give you an example of what happened with me, right? So I remember Amazon had come on campus, and that point in time, Amazon was just setting up shops in India, and they had actually come up with a role for account manager, right? Which is actually a key role for an e-commerce player, right? So at that point in time, because of lack of research, or like because of us not having enough seniors in such roles to actually talk about them or endorse them, some of us, even when we got a short list for those roles, perhaps weren't very sure whether we should take up those roles or not, right? And now when I think about it, I actually spent 2 years in a conventional organization, right? And then moved to e-commerce. So had I perhaps known that, like that role is going to be the thing like going forward, right? Or perhaps done my research on it without being biased by people's opinion of or my friends' opinion about that role. I mean, I think I would have gotten into, let's say, e-commerce probably 2 years earlier rather than starting it off or starting it 2 years later, right? So I would say that, I mean, we place a lot of importance on the days on which in which organizations are coming, right? Another example is that a lot of times, like, organizations like HCL or Infosys, they perhaps come towards the latter half of the placement cycle, but these organizations sometimes they give you roles which augment or probably accelerate your path to, let's say, work abroad, or find permanent careers outside the country, right? And if that's something that you're looking for, then it's not a bad option, or it's actually not bad to join these organizations at all, right? uh, so I'm just saying that we should, I mean, instead of like focusing just on the big fat packages and the big fat brands and conventional roles that we've always heard of, right? I think we should definitely spend some time in doing our research, figuring out if the roles that are at hand, like how important they are to the organization, right? And at the same time, like, what does it look like? Uh, I mean, how are these roles trending in the market, or how are they looking like in the future job scenario? Uh, Nowadays it's you can always like probably touch base with people on LinkedIn, touch base with the alums on LinkedIn, and ask them more about the roles that are being that are being offered, right? So I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, just to probably sum it up, like, do your research and then gun for roles, rather than just like like being biased. Yaar, acha, my friend is saying that this role is good, so this would work for me also. So I will only apply to this organization because it comes on day zero and it offers the best package in the among the lot. So yeah, I mean, just do your research and see if the role that you applying to is in line with what you want to do in the future as well, right? So that would actually really help you, like probably like deciding the right career option for you. But I mean, in case, like, and probably like, if you do not able to convert a PPO, then even for finals, you could perhaps like, you would know whether or not you're okay with that kind of, okay with the role that you chose earlier. So it would be a more informed, I would say that make a more informed decision. Don't be influenced by people around you. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, a good advice that one should do his or her own research instead of being influenced by peers. Because every person, I mean, maybe some role might fit, might be a right fit for a person, but may not be
Yeah.
the best for the other. Okay, so Pallavi, you worked in a conventional setup, then you moved to an e-commerce, and then within OYO also you started with BD, now in growth, right? So a lot of switching between roles and functions. So how fluid it is to switch roles post MBA?
You see, I have seen a lot of my friends actually moving on from, they start with business development, 2 years down the line, they realize that probably they want to do consulting, they move to consulting. There are people who start with consulting and then probably moved on to business development. In my own case, like, it was easier for me to get into category management at Shopclues because, uh, like I told you, in Mahindra, I was a part of the retail sector. The category that I was handling that point in time uh, was, I mean, there weren't a lot of category managers or people who had expertise in that category available in the market. So I got a wonderful opportunity to switch to. Uh, I mean, I would say that that is what gave me the opportunity to switch to e-commerce, right? And once you've joined an e-commerce company, I mean, category management was also business development in a lot of ways, right? And that's how I got the opportunity of joining BD in OYO. However, I realized that a couple of months or probably a year into my role, I realized that I think I would want to be into a growth slash product side of things, and that is there was some restructuring happening in the organization, and I jumped on the opportunity and requested seniors to kind of give me that transfer. So I would say that I've seen in startups, it's very, very fluid. It's very, I mean, if you, let's say if you express the desire to move across roles, and obviously like having completed a certain tenure in your first role and perform to an acceptable level, I think switching from one role to the other is not that uh, uh, I mean, it's easier. Like it's easier in startups. However, I would say that in more conventional organization, I don't think it comes that easy, right? So I would say like even back in Mahindra, right? So I started with business development. I think it would have been, I mean, I would have had to wait for at least 2 to 3 years for me to like move to a new sector, or let's say move to a new organizing, or move to a new role. I mean, because they expect you to have a certain journey in a particular role before you actually decide to move on to the next role, and even then it would perhaps would not have come that easy. However, I think it's easy to do it in a startup. But let's say if you're not joining a startup, you join a conventional organization, and probably 1 or 2 years down the line you realize that, okay, I mean, you might want to try on a different role, because what you're doing is something that came your way because you interviewed for a certain organization, not something that you wanted to do. I don't think it's that difficult. I mean, a couple of years, even after you pass out of your, I mean, couple of years passing out of the B school, you can always probably take a step back. You can take a step back in your career by a year and join probably role at a starting, join a role that you want to do going forward, probably at a starting designation. However, like, like as and when you develop your profile, I think after you've like probably done 10 years, or have had more than 10 years of experience, then people expect you to start specializing. So I would say that a couple of years, like after you passed off your B school, you can always dabble in new career options and probably see what works for you. But after a few years, you would be expected to specialize, or not just be a generalist. You'd be expected to specialize, and that's when you will really like go ahead in your career path. So yeah, that's my view of it.
Yeah, so for the first year, you can try what is the best for you, and like years down the line, then you become stable in one particular
Yeah,
specialization.
yeah.
Okay. So can you tell the viewers that how MBA has helped you shape your career?
Yeah, so I'd say that MBA really helped me accelerate my career growth. Uh, I mean, and it's not just a line that you write in your SOPs, right? When you're preparing for B school, it really does help you. Uh, I'm so sorry. Just 1 second. Yeah. So it does really help you catapult or accelerate your career path by leaps and bounds. I think other than that, it actually gave me a network across organizations. Uh, and you don't necessarily have to know those people to be able to reach out to them for your future career opportunities as well. There's a general sense of I mean, I can reach out to any senior of mine from FMS, right? And they would always at least they would accommodate my genuine requests, or probably help guide me if there's
Yeah.
something, if there is a let's say career guidance that I'm seeking from them. So I mean, yeah, that's the whole beauty of it, right? So it helps you catapult your career path. It also helps you like connect with a large with actually a very large prestigious alumni network. So uh, it perhaps, I would say, it perhaps sets the foundation. It may not, I mean, the courses that they're teaching conventionally in B schools now, and the roles that are being in demand are, I would say, are not in sync. Uh, However, it does lay the foundation of, I mean, of starting your corporate careers. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, go for it, guys. I would say work really hard and go all out. Yeah.
Yeah, true that. I mean, when you're associated with a top premier B school, you have a big alumni base, and they are
Yeah.
definitely there to help you, even if they do not know you, right? And they'll definitely help each other. So we have a few queries from the users. Let me just read them out. One says that career progression post MBA varies from person to person. What are your thoughts on role of these top B schools in helping someone move up the ladder in terms of professional growth?
Yeah, see, my 2 cents on that is that it would only help you so much, right? So, see, once you're passing out of a B school, it helps you getting basically it helps you in a kickstart to your career based on based on your B school credentials, based on your own credentials, right? But I think after 2 3 years, it's I mean, it stops helping you, right? You
Yeah.
have to perform. You have to be good at your work to be able to like move up the career ladder. So it I mean, if you're switching your jobs, it's like a tick in the box, right? So you from a premium B school, okay, you worked in so and so organization. It does help you in, let's say, getting a shortlist even when you're switching your organization, but ultimately it's your hard work, right? And if you've done good work, and if you've done good projects, and if you have like a big body of work to talk about, I would say that then your MBA is just a tick in the box. It's after that, it's your work that does the talking. So bank on it to get a good job, but don't bank on it beyond that. So beyond that, it has to be your own hard work, your own blood, sweat, and tears that would do the talking. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get a jump start to your career through a good B
Yeah.
school. However, years down the line, it's all about your hard work, the kind of work that you do that will shape your trajectory.
That's
Okay,
true.
so We have a question from a user, Archana. She says that rather than leveraging MBA experience to undertake a radical career shift, changing geography, function, and sector, your thoughts on the moving on with a new functional area within the same organization. So she means to say that rather than shifting career, you move on to the new functional area within the same organization. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite, see, honestly, that's quite possible too, right? So even in, I would, if I talk about my current organization, right, OYO, there are a lot of people from IITs and NIITs who've done exceptionally well, who've probably joined the organization early on and have worked really hard and have probably, you know, like jumped up the corporate ladder pretty soon, and they are doing those roles. So you don't necessarily have to be an MBA to do, let's say, a product role or a data science role or a data analytics role, or even be in performance marketing, right? So there are a lot of engineers who are doing just the same role. So see, it totally depends on the organization that you're in. So I would say, when I look at organizations like, let's say, Amazon, uh, I think beyond a certain point, an MBA degree is kind of mandatory. I would say, like, you know, as you're moving up the ladder after a certain level, you need an MBA degree. Uh, in an organization which would probably just be starting up, perhaps that would not be a constraint. They're even okay with, uh, you know, let's say, people without MBA backgrounds to take up senior level roles. In a more, I would say, I mean, there are organizations which are very, very tech centric, right? They would actually encourage engineers over MBA. So it totally depends on the organization that you're in. So if you're already working somewhere, you could actually see the trajectories of your seniors, and if they've moved ahead in the ladder, up the corporate ladder without doing an MBA, perhaps that's something that even you can do, right? So it actually depends a lot on the DNA of the organization. That's something you would know if you're already working in one. So I'd say do your research. Nowadays, I would say that, I mean, the STEM courses, which are your science, technology, engineering, maths courses, are kind of like taking precedence over conventional management courses, because that will set you up for the new age roles. Uh, However, I mean, it depends on the organization that you're targeting, on what is it that they value in a human resource. So you need to do that research. There's no right or wrong answer to it, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on organizations to organization. Some organizations are quite flexible in terms, in these terms, they allow people to switch between roles. However, some restrict you. They ask you to follow a certain trajectory that for 2 years, minimum 2 to 3 years, you have to be into this role and then move
Yeah.
on. Yeah, so it is all about the organization that you are looking, you're targeting. Okay, so we have a question from Abhinav. He says that how much is the importance of pedigree for leadership roles in new age startups?
I think, yeah, that's something that I answered even in the previous question. So it totally depends on the organization. Like I mentioned, if it's an early stage startup, uh, and I mean, they do value pedigree to a certain extent, as in, if you're, I mean, I've seen people who from, let's say, IITs or the top NIITs being preferred over other engineering colleges. So vis-a-vis, at the same time, like, you know, people from tier 1 B schools being preferred over people from tier 2, tier 3 B schools. I think that's the uh, that's the trend that I've seen in all the three organizations that I've worked with. And even when I speak to my friends, that's the trend in their organizations as well. So I would say that that's a pretty common phenomenon across the industries. However, I'd say, like, if you're somebody who's uh, you know, who's really good at your work, and at the same time who's had like a lot of experience in the profile that they're applying for, then they are definitely considered, right? So it's not just that, I mean, it's not a world which is only open to people with great pedigrees or good pedigrees. I mean, I think if you're somebody whose body of work talks for themselves, and if you're somebody who's had a very rich experience in the role that you're applying for, I think you would definitely be considered. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely like pedigree would help you for the initial few years, but if you have experience to speak of, then definitely you would be preferred
Yeah.
any. Okay, so something about FMS, right? ROI is best in FMS, as they say. How true is that?
It is the best. I mean, there are no two ways about it. I remember paying 20,000 for as my tuition fees for the 2 years that I was there. I mean, that's the best ROI that any B school can perhaps offer you. In fact, nowadays, just the other day, I was actually looking at the ISB fee structure, and the 1 year fee structure there is about 45 lakhs now, just the tuition. So I mean, it's obviously like, like it actually gives you a head start, right? So I mean, I didn't, when I passed out of college, right, I didn't actually have to worry about paying off my loans, paying off my debts, right, which is something that, I mean, if you've raised a lot of loan, you would, that's something that, like you would perhaps have to start repaying from your initial salary, which is something that I didn't have to worry about. So yeah, I'd say that it is the best B school when it comes to ROI.
Yeah.
uh, I would say it just, I mean, I wanted to be in marketing, right? So for marketing, it was perhaps the best. However, let's say if you're somebody who wants to be in consulting, uh, or even in finance, I think there are a lot many companies that come to the IMs and to come to the IMs than they come to FMS, or probably they pick up more number of people because of the batch strength from IMs than they pick up from FMS. So it also depends on the role or the or probably the industry that you want to join going forward. But having said that, if I only talk about the fee structure, FMS is the best, and Pranav here can also vouch for it.
Yeah, plus another opportunity that FMS students have is they can start their own venture as well. They do not have that risk because they have not taken any loan, so they can risk the initial few years if they want to be entrepreneurs, which is difficult in case of students from other B schools because they always have that burden of loan on them.
Yeah. I mean, see, I'd say anybody can start their own thing, but yeah, it becomes
Yeah,
easier. It becomes more comfortable to do it when you do not have, any pressures of paying off your debt or your loans. So yeah, it's definitely easier that way.
okay, so we have a question from Richa. She asks, "There's a rising trend of people doing double MBAs. Your thought on this?"
Uh, I would say that, I mean, see, okay, so if I know of many people who've, even in FMS, right, who've done, who probably did their MBAs, obviously in FMS first, or I know people across other B schools also who've actually done their MBAs in from tier 1 B schools, and perhaps, like, after a couple of years gone on to pursue MBAs abroad. So I would say that, like, if it's a good brand that you're looking after, right? So for example, my own, I mean, I know somebody who actually did her MBA from NITI and then went on to do her MBA from Harvard, right? And yeah, I mean, if it's, I mean, you have to actually weigh in the pros and cons, right? So if you're getting into a B school which is, let's say, known much more, or has like, which is known across the world, or probably, like, like amongst the top B schools in the world, and has a, eventually, like, will give you like a much better head start in your career than what your conventional MBA has done, then definitely something that you have to, that you can consider, right? However, knowing people who've knowing people who've actually gone on to do their MBAs from Ivy Leagues, it's actually very, very difficult to get jobs in US and UK. I mean, not everybody who does an MBA from, let's say, an Ivy League ends up getting a job, or a great job, which is, perhaps that covers us, which perhaps would cover up the cost of the 2 years that you were unemployed, plus the additional tuition fee that you paid, right? But I mean, it depends on what you want to do. So I also know a lot of people who did their MBAs and then actually went on to do, let's say, a more technical course. perhaps in data science or something like an MIS from abroad, because the new age the new age roles that I was talking about come in much more easier if you've done such roles, and obviously, like perhaps they wanted like a career in the US, and it's easier to find jobs in that sector if you've done like specialized courses. So it again, I would say that it totally depends on what you want to do and what is your end objective. However, I mean, you have to actually weigh in the ROI. Like doing a double MBA. I'm assuming that you would only do a double MBA if you like pursuing a second degree from abroad, right? And not perhaps like do an MBA again in India. So you have to like weigh in the ROI. You have to look at the fee structure, and then you also have to do an extensive research into the kind of jobs that you'll get after passing out. And let's say if you do not do an MBA, and you continue in your current job, would you be reaching the same, let's say, designation or the same salary structure as you would, let's say, if you end up doing a second course? So weigh in your pros and cons and then take the call, I'd say.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, it was great talking to you, Priya. We got to know a lot about the life after MBA. So, generally, in our talk shows, people talk about life at their respective B schools. They talk about preparation. You are one of the few who have you've spoken just about life after FMS. And like what are the some new age technologies that one must be watchful for, and what are the some of the unconventional job roles one could target, and also about the research one should do for further studies, B schools, and job roles, etc., etc. So it was a great talk, and it was great interacting with you.
Same here, Pranav. Thank you for having me over, and it was actually a great session. If any of you people in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, and if it's something that I can answer, I'd be very, very happy to help. So yeah, I mean, thank you for the great session, and I think I had a great time. Yeah.
Yeah, I also had a great time interacting with you. Right. So, so this was Priya with us, giving insights on how one can shape a career post MBA. What are the non-conventional career paths one could follow these days? What are some of the new age technologies, some industries to target, etc. I hope you must have enjoyed this session. So it's time to take adieu from her. So thanks, Priya, once again. Have a
Thank
great day
you.
ahead.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.